Welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team. And I'm Ken Dekker.
And I'm Yetta Dekker.
And together we form part of our fabulous team that helps our clients out with any information they need all about real estate. So what's this show about today?
Today we're going to do one of the favorite topics, or at least we're told it's one of the favorite topics, and that is the statistics. What is happening in our marketplace? And always, if you are interested in a market snapshot of your community, your specific hyper-local community, then give us a call, because we can be your local real estate economist of choice and provide you that very accurate, detailed information. A market snapshot, all you have to do is email us or call us, and we will set one up for your specific area. And then it's interesting, because I just had a conversation with a client today that we're bringing their property to market today, and they were saying that they've been looking at all the other actives that are out there. And so the price that we've been talking about with their house may be too low relative to what's actually out there. And the interesting thing is, that's one way of looking at the market, and certainly if you're a buyer, that's where you have to go, is see what's available right now and choose from that. And if you're a seller, that information is good to be aware of. There was 112 homes in and around the area that they were thinking of they are selling in, for sale right now within about $150,000 spread. So that's a lot of competition. And even with that, you could say, well, my home's worth more based on how much they're asking for this one. And yet that's not all that helpful information. It's really of little value other than knowing your competition, because when we actually look at the solds, it was probably a good $50,000 difference between what people started out asking for primarily in and around that community and what they actually sold for. So the market snapshot will actually give you the sold prices, and it will show you both days on market as well as cumulative days on market. And those are two interesting different numbers, because more than not, properties that come onto the market overpriced. We don't necessarily know they're overpriced until the buyers don't respond to the property. Then they get taken off the market, brought back onto the market. So it may look like it was on the market 10 or 15 days when it sold. And yet really, often there was another 90-day or 150-day listing period prior to that. So the cumulative days on market will show you that. So lots of great data that we would love to provide to you. It's called the Market Snapshot. Email us or call us 613-860-4663, 613-860-4663, or info@dekkerteam.com, Dekker double K, no C's, and we will get that over to you. Just give us just your basic geographic area and any criteria you want us to include in that market snapshot, and an email address and a phone number so we can confirm that you've received it. Because sometimes, you know what happens? The spam filters, or the junk filters, I guess, take out the searches.
They do that to
the
Dekker Team
They
too?
They do
Wow.
it to us too.
Oh my goodness.
And so we want to make sure that if something goes wrong, we can get a hold of you and get that all sorted out, and that we've got the right criteria. So to the stats that we're going to look at today. We're going to do it a little differently than we've done it before. Ken's decided that it was getting too consistent, so he wanted to change it up a little bit. So we're going to look at condo sales, starting with those, year to date. Mm-hmm. And we're going to break them down into types of condominiums. Yeah. And that's what will be a little different today than we've done previously. Often we just look at the condo market as a whole. And this time we're going to look at row units, stacked, and apartments.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. First of all, it's year to date, but it's only till the end of April. That's as early as, or the most recent stats I could get for this show. So end of April. So basically 4 months into the year. So we're looking at the first 4 months of the year compared to the first 4 months of last year, 2014.
Right.
And then I thought, well, let's break it into the types of housing.
Right.
Because it's very, very difficult for us to talk on the show about the hyper micro market where your property is in and do that. But we can talk generality of how row units are increasing or decreasing, how stacked units And if you're not in a stack, you probably don't know what it is. Maybe you're in a stack and you don't know that we call it a stack. That's where you have basically two staircases, two entrances at the front. One goes down to usually a 2-level unit.
Sometimes a single level unit.
Sometimes single level, but most of the time two levels. So you walk in on that level at the living room kitchen area, then another staircase down to the bedroom areas, and the other door goes up a staircase to the kitchen living room area, and then another staircase to...
Right. And there are some that are bungalow style like that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so you get all kinds of styles of stacked.
Mm-hmm. So for row units, that's your more typical type of row unit. May have a garage, may have a carport,
Or
may have
not at
none,
all. Right.
and you just have common parking.
Right, which is probably the more common in the condominium townhomes. There'd be more across the city that would be without a garage, and yet there are pockets that do have garages and or carports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for 2015, 241 sales in that type of product compared to 286 in 2014. So almost 16% decrease, 15.7% decrease in the number of sales in that type of condominium.
Right.
Now, what's interesting is pricing didn't follow
Which
suit.
is great.
Yeah, pricing went
really
up
good.
on these. Now they've taken a hit the last few years, so it feels like condominium pricing is kind of starting to, maybe it bottomed out. It's kind of holding its own. So that went up. Average sale price in the first part of 2015, $235,000 and change. So that's a 5.8% increase.
Right, because it was 222 the year before.
Right.
So that was about a $13,000 increase on that price range of home in the 200 range.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
that price
very
range.
good.
So that's showing there's even though the sales are down, there seems to be a strong demand for it. If prices are going up, it's an affordable price range, that average
Right,
price.
for a single family, for really a dwelling where you've got 2 floors plus a basement, generally speaking, you've got a fair bit of space in them, whereas in the stack, we've seen quite a different thing. We're seeing that the prices have actually gone down. And so where we've made up 5.8% on the row unit style condominiums, and we'll talk about row unit freeholds in a minute, so that's just relative to condominiums right now.
Right.
They've actually gone down 6.2.
Yeah. And what's interesting is it's also a smaller segment of the market.
Right. There's about half as many of those, just under half.
Selling anyway.
Selling.
So 105 compared to 114 last year. So sales were down 7.9% of those type of units, but prices were down 6.2.
Yeah.
That's a $15,000 price difference between
On the average.
2015 and 2014 on the average. And I think what that is a fair bit of supply and demand, because the builders are building that style now.
A lot of them.
They're not building the old style.
Not as
Condos,
many.
really,
There's a little bit of
townhouse
that.
style, but not very much compared to the stack style.
Correct, because they're building more in the freehold style when it comes to the row unit style. So that's part of your conversation about your supply and demand. And then it's a different price point, obviously.
Yeah, and I think it's a land use statement, right? Because on a stacked, you can get 2 units per chunk of land compared to a townhouse, you only get 1 unit. So they're building those more because there's more profitability for
Yeah, because they're
building.
taller. They're twice as tall, the actual building, right? Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. And so when we're talking about these row units and stacked in particular, there is a flood of them in the new market as well. So these stats do not include the new market, the new construction. They only refer to resale.
Yeah. And I'm finding
Although they may be quite new, some of them.
There's a fair bit of stacked coming up for rent as well.
Yes, there is.
Now, apartments is typically, there's a few other types of condos, but they're so minor, they really don't hit the stats, really. You know, there's the odd condo, bungalow kind of style, but there's maybe one or two sold in 3 months. So
Right,
really,
because we do have some single-family condominium-style homes in Ottawa. It's just it's a handful versus hundreds.
So when you talk in
thousands.
statistics, there aren't enough to really get a good basis for your stats. So apartments. Now this is the largest segment of condo sales, which I was interested to see. 415 this first 4 months of the year compared to 417 sales first 4 months of the last year. So almost identical, 0.5%.
Yeah, so the same.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Now pricing, again, down a little bit.
Yeah, but just 1%.
Yeah, not a lot.
1.1. So really pricing flat on the apartment and number of homes selling flat year over year in the first quarter, in the first third.
The average sale price is pretty much 280.
Yeah.
Compared to last year at 280, 283.
Yeah.
That 1% decrease, which is around $2,500, $3,000 decrease in value. But it's interesting that the apartments have less space and are more expensive.
Well, yeah, because it's a different location.
Quite
so
often.
we're generally speaking that, it's not 100% across the board, and yet we have a lot more apartments as we get closer to the downtown core. And so that's part of what's driving the price up is its location and then location and then location. And we have fewer row home type condominiums in Ottawa proper, right in town.
Right. So condo sales as a whole.
Yep.
Including all those few minor ones, down 6.6% in the number of sales.
Right.
And then overall, price-wise, up 0.4 if you average them all in.
Right, except we really have to look at them. If you're thinking of selling a home, we really need to compare you to row units. The stacked get compared to stacked, apartment gets compared to apartment.
Yes.
There's no point in comparing an apartment to a row unit. So that is one of the things that's really important. Although there's never a direct comparable to your home probably when you're putting your home on the market, there are relevant property details and relevant property information. So that's really what we're talking about here, is what's the relevant market information.
Yeah. So the other part of supply, of demand is pricing, right? And the other part of that is supply.
Right.
So again, inventory, I've been harping on this for probably 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
Inventory continues to increase year over year over year over year. So at the end of April, there were 2,210 properties for sale in the condo category.
Right.
That's a 14% increase over what it was April last year.
Right.
That's a significant increase.
So the scary thing, though, is if we go back 4 years to 2011, just to sort of look at what's happening there, right? Is there not about 100% increase?
Absolutely.
Over the number of homes that were on the market then at that same time versus what's on the market today?
And sales have not increased.
Right,
so
they've
the
actually
inventory's
decreased
doubled,
slightly.
and the sales are decreasing.
Right.
That's a little bit scary. So,
and we've been having that conversation
we've still
every
been
month
selling
too,
some
right?
condominiums. And the reason we've been selling condominiums is they're fairly good value still.
Well, they're great value, and often they're located in areas that make them make a lot of sense too, right? And also it's that whole conversation about maintenance and how much time do I want to invest in the actual upkeep of my property. And so the condominiums give you an amazing alternative to a whole lot of exterior maintenance, right?
So let's flip this coin over.
Okay, and just before we do, let's just say if you're just joining us now on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team, I'm Yetta Dekker and my sidekick's Ken Dekker. And we've been talking about the market conditions and really what's happening in our marketplace. And we've talked so far about the whole condominium market and broken it down into row units, stacked units, and apartment style homes. And so if you're wanting to catch that and you didn't go there, go to the first half of the show. And now we're going to switch gears and talk about freehold. And freehold simply means there isn't a condominium fee attached. There could be a maintenance fee though. So there are lots of homes out there, especially in the townhouse style, that are located on what we would call privates. They don't have to be privates, however, often they are. And there would be a maintenance fee associated, and we would still call that a freehold. So it's just good to know. So just like we broke down in the first half of the show the styles of homes within the condominium market, we're going to break down the styles of homes in the freehold market.
So let's go to row units first. And again, sales totally flat. 779 in the first 4 months this year, 778 in the first 4 months.
So you can't even, you're saying it's 0.1 of a difference. However, it's exactly the same. One does not count. So exactly the same number of homes. And what's fascinating is the average price has dropped about $4,000.
Yeah, 1.2%.
Yeah.
So 318 as opposed to 322
right
a year ago. So if you're in a townhouse and you just bought it a year ago, it may have gone down slightly. May have, depends on where it's located.
It depends on where it is and the condition and if there's so many factors, folks. So that's why we want to give you those snapshots, the market snapshots of your specific community, and yet hopefully you're finding lots of value in just knowing the general state of our Ottawa real estate market. And it's important to say that although we're talking about increased inventory and we're talking about, in most types of property, slight decreases, there's a few that are exceptions where we're seeing some increases in purchase prices or average selling prices, that Ottawa's a really stable market. It's still overall not a scary place to buy or a scary place to own. Real estate in the long haul has only gone down in value for 3 years in the last 30 years. And it was 0.5%, 1%.
And I caused it.
You did cause it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll blame you. Anyway, so although we're giving you some maybe not exciting news, we're not saying it's up 5% this year or 7% this year across all spectrums. It is still a very stable and a very exciting market to own property in.
Yeah.
Because it is so stable.
Yes. So let's talk about semis.
Yeah.
Not as many semis as there are townhouses.
No.
291 sales compared to 256 sales. So that's an increase. Am I allowed to talk about that percentage? That's
sure.
good.
That's actually an exciting one.
Okay, so that's
it's up almost 14%, right? 13.7.
Exactly.
What's interesting is the number of sales is up, as is the pricing on average, though. We've moved from 381 to 398.
Yeah.
So we're looking at about a 4.5% increase in the average purchase price on a townhome. And what's interesting, when we talk about averages, it doesn't actually...
Not a townhome, it's semi.
Semis.
That's okay.
It doesn't actually mean your home's gone up 4.5%. It means that the average price range of those that are selling have gone up. Because sometimes larger homes sell, smaller homes sell. And so when we talk about the averages, it can be a little...
deceiving.
Yeah, that's the word. A little deceiving and a little disconcerting almost.
Yeah, but the longer the period that it's averaged over, the more likely it's telling us what the market's doing.
Correct. So it's nice to look at year stats and that kind of thing as
well. Now,
well.
by far the largest number of sales are in detached family homes.
Right, of any category, freehold. Whether we're talking condominium market or whether we're talking freehold market, right?
Yeah. So, interesting. This market is fairly strong on the sales again. 2,416 homes sold first 4 months of the year compared to 2,202.
Right, so that's up 9%, right? Almost 10%. Almost 10% in terms of volume, which is really exciting, actually.
Yeah, because we'd like to get the inventory down.
We'd really like the inventory
Although
to
even
shrink.
though sales are up, inventory's going up too. So let's look at the price.
Let's look at the prices. The prices are exactly the same, really.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly the same.
Yeah, there's really no difference. So average price really is about $411. Well, almost $412. So the average price on a single family detached freehold is about the average in Ottawa now, including the suburban areas, like that's in town, out of town, all the areas combined, board. Everything that's in the Ottawa board, the average is now up to $412,000. That's a pretty amount of money. That's a pretty healthy average. We're starting to break up to close to that $500,000, which sounds just crazy.
Yeah, but with the interest rates, they're still affordable.
Very affordable.
That's what's happening.
Which is very good. So freehold sales, in terms of volume, are up almost 8%, right? in the single family, and overall we're up slightly.
Pricing up like a 1/4%. Yeah, 1/4%. So not very much.
No.
So pretty much flat. So if you're thinking of putting your home up for sale and you bought it last year, you're probably going to get the same amount of money for it.
Or real close.
Very
And depending on where it is and what it is, if it was a semi-detached, you might get a little bit more for it. If it was a row unit, you're probably going to sell it for a little bit less than you would have sold it for last year. So unless you bought one that was what I call the ugly duckling with sweat equity potential, those homes tend to still do quite well in even a market that's flat.
Yeah. So then I looked at, let's look at, people say, well, if I put my house up for sale, it's going to sell, right? Not necessarily.
That's an interesting conversation, isn't it? We were just going to finish up, I think, inventory. And that
did I miss that?
We did.
Okay.
So it's up again. You did mention it was up again. It's up about 11.5% in terms of the number of single-family freehold homes compared to how many were available last year. So if you're a buyer in, especially on a house hunting trip, or you've only got a short window to look at, you have more to look at than ever before.
6,500 freehold homes
That's
for sale
wild.
at the end of April.
Which is a lot of homes.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, what's interesting is all property types at the beginning of January, so day 1 of January, there were 10,594 available. That's farm, residential, multifamily, commercial, everything.
10,600 basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
And since during those 4 months, the real estate industry has listed for sale 4,549.
Right. So pretty much 4,600. Let's just try and work with round numbers. Okay. I know it's 50, but anyway.
All right.
So it's just easier when you're listening to us and we're not showing you graphs, and even if you're watching, we don't have graphs that we're showing you with all the numbers on it. And so it's easier if we sort of average it slightly, right?
Okay.
So approximately 4,600 have come onto the market in the last 4 months, right? And less than 2,000 have sold.
Yeah. So really, during that 4 months, there were 15,143 houses available, or properties available, not just houses, but all properties.
All property types.
Okay, so the 10,600 we started with, plus the next, 45 and change, that's 15,000 properties available. 1,942 sold.
I know.
Okay, so what percentage is that of, even if we just look at the ones that were available in January? No, sorry. So that means I don't even know what percentage that is. I think I got it later in my slide. So withdrawn, that means people in withdrawn, canceled, expired, means they did not sell. They came off of the market. Now, whether they came back on later, we don't know, but they came off the market.
Well, we do know. We could tell you specifically whether a property...
One particular property, but the stats don't
as the
delineate
overall,
that.
right. So there were 1,460. So the better part of 1,500 homes of the 15,000, right, that came off the market. Potentially some came back on, others did not come back on.
Yes.
Which is crazy. That's about almost 10%.
Yeah. So because of those that came off and the ones that sold, at the end of April, there were 11,741 different properties for sale, compared to 10,168 April last year.
Right.
So that's a 15% increase in overall inventory of all
even
types.
with the ones that have come off.
Yeah, with all, April to April, end of April to end of April. So 50% of properties, 57% of properties that came off were sold. That means 43% did not sell. Now, if we look at what percentage sold compared to the total inventory that was available, it's 12.8% of the total inventory sold in that first 4 months. That's not a lot. Now, a lot of it's still up for sale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. And
Yeah.
so you'll want a market snapshot of your community. I think if nothing else, this show has demonstrated you want to get in touch with us. And it's not a big challenge for us to set that up for you. It takes a little bit of time, not a whole lot.
So they need to email us or call us.
Right? And once we have it set up for you, you will receive that information every month. Right? Around the first of the month, we could set it up to different times. However, we have it structured to come to you at approximately the first of the month, and that way you will always know what's happening in your specific local, hyper-local
Then
market.
they'll be as expert as we are almost.
Almost. Except you got to get into the thousands of homes too. So
Yeah.
anyway, if you would like that, this tells you it would be an awesome thing to be aware of, and then nobody can be telling you things that aren't true because you'll have the information at your fingertips, and that's pretty powerful.
Now,
So-
the next piece of information is because somebody went through Manotick and drove around, and they said, oh my goodness, there's a lot of houses for sale in Manotick.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, there are a lot of affordable homes in Manotick. As a matter of fact, we have some under 500,000 beautiful homes in Manotick.
And some under 6, which is phenomenal.
And so, but what I did was I said, oh, I wonder what is happening with the $1 million houses. You know, you see lots of these kind of castle-y kind of properties that are $1 million plus. So I looked, and in the Rideau Forest Manotick area,
Which is just a very small little area. That doesn't even count the Greeley area, does it?
no,
No.
doesn't go
so
as far
that's
as Greeley.
just, right, that little...
Greeley wouldn't have as many $1 million.
No, but in the
It
Manotick
has a
Station
few.
area, there's quite a
There's a
few
few,
in the edge
yeah.
of Greeley there.
Yeah.
So anyway, 53 are available. So if you're looking for a home in around the $1 million to $2 million price range, tons
So
of
if you got
inventory.
$100 million, you could probably buy most of these 53.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so there, and what's interesting, in the first pretty much 5 months of the year, till the end, well, to the 22nd of May, we were able to pull stats for that. There's one that's currently conditionally sold, and there's 9 more that have sold.
Which leaves us with nothing more coming on the market, 26 months of inventory in the $1 million plus range in the Manotick area.
And just in the Manotick area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of inventory. That's an extreme buyer's market. So if you've got money and you want to buy in that price range, let us help you. We can get you pretty good value.
Yeah, there's great options out there.
So we're
I
gonna
mean,
talk-
actually more affordable than building your own at
Yes.
this point
Yes.
because
Yeah, you
of
can't
the
rebuild
huge
them.
inventory. You can't rebuild them for what they're selling for. So that doesn't mean you don't want to build your custom home. We're still seeing custom homes come up in around the Manotick area and into the city. And that's going to be because you're looking for something very specific to suit you. You'd better talk about a property.
Yeah, because I've got a great property. It's out off of Dilworth Road, which is quick access to the 416. This property would be awesome for somebody that has a home-based business, maybe somebody that has a construction company or has trucks or that kind of thing. It's on 2.3 acres, a beautiful...
Little bit of yellow elbow room outside, and it's a newer built home.
Yeah, beautiful bungalow, 3 bedrooms up, several bedrooms on the walkout basement. So it's a bungalow from the front, but really looks like a 2-story from the back. Very usable, gorgeous landscaping. 'Cause, it really should be in the city, the quality of the landscaping, because usually in the country you don't see that quite
As much, yeah. And so how much is that, Ken?
That is $675, and it has an outbuilding that is 30 by 70 for storing your trucks. And it's got the high door. So it's beautiful. Give us a call on that. Thanks for joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate.
Have
Bye
a great
for now.
day.